And it's live.
Okay, just give it a minute, let people join. People in?
Hasn't said anything yet.
Okay, nobody's in yet.
All right, John Spoon's in.
Hi, John Spoon. Okay, it's Trisha Jansen, the Foodie Princess. I'm gonna make meatloaf. Meatloaf is one of those things that either you loved it or you hated it growing up. A lot of people, their mom made it, it was dry, it tasted dreadful. I make 80 million versions of it, and I'm just making a version today. I make them up in my head. I don't measure. I'm gonna give you estimates, but don't be so in the box, guys, with your ingredients. And I'll talk more as I'm going along. Whenever you're cooking, it's to your taste. If you like garlic, add more garlic. If you don't like carrots, don't add carrots. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be so stuck. Use recipes as an outline for your cooking, and don't be afraid to break outside the box. Okay, so when I'm making meatloaf, I have a big family, so I'm gonna make a big old loaf. I love it. And of course, it's the best for breakfast in the next morning with eggs. In here, I've got ground beef and ground pork, and I'm gonna add a secret ingredient to that later, but 50-50 usually. I'm gonna use some other ingredients that I'm gonna tell you about later that are a little weird, and I'm very old school. I'm not bougie when it comes to cooking. I love the old classics, and I cook like that. So I'm kind of semi-homemade, so don't be afraid to try. Okay, so first, what I wanna do is you wanna saute your vegetables. Any vegetables you like, put it in your meatloaf. If you don't like vegetables, don't put it in. I think a must is onion and garlic. That's my personal opinion. I love bell peppers and I love the flavors. So I'm adding red, yellow, and green bell peppers in here, and onions and garlic. So I'm using the nectar of the gods. This is bacon fat. Okay, so that's what I'm sauteing in. I love the flavor of bacon. So it's just really, really good. I'm not gonna use all these onions because I'm gonna do some other things later on and you guys can come back. I'm gonna use about a cup worth of onions. And I'm gonna saute those in my bacon fat. And I'm also going to use about a half a cup of my mixed green and red peppers. And Liam, can you get closer in here to see? And we're gonna saute those up. Now the reason, okay, you can come back to me. The reason you wanna saute your vegetables is it brings out the flavor. A lot of recipes call for them just to be put in the meat. Don't do that. Take the extra time and saute them, and they just develop a sweeter, delicious flavor. I have garlic in here, fresh garlic. I'm gonna do it's about 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. I like garlic. If you don't have to use a lot. Again, the flavors are so good. Now, I'm sure most of you are watching it's not the Super Bowl, football. I'm a hockey fan, so I don't follow football at all. Although my Steelers did not do well today, I hear. Sad, my poor Steeler fans. But good news, we will be using Heinz ketchup later on, so you Pittsburgh fans, don't feel sad. We'll incorporate Pittsburgh somewhere in there. Okay, so I'm just sauteing these on medium to medium-high heat in my bacon fat if you're just now joining us. Onions, bell pepper, red, yellow, and green. Again, if you don't like them, you don't have to. If you don't have access to fresh bell peppers, I wanted to talk about this ingredient. This is freeze-dried green peppers. So this is great to have if you live in an area where you can't get fresh. We're in California, so we get fresh ingredients all throughout the year. But these are great. You just rehydrate them in a little water. They're great for meatloaf. So good little trick there. Now, what is meatloaf? It's a giant meatball. So get creative. What do you like in your meatballs? How do you like them made? This is the idea, okay? So get creative. I make all different versions of meatloaf. I add all different weird ingredients, but it's up to you guys what you like. I don't know what you guys are into, but this is what I'm doing today. And it's about what you have on hand, you know? Like, I didn't plan to make this other than today. My husband is not a foodie. Sad. My husband does not like food. Can you imagine the Foodie Princess? My husband is not a foodie, but he rarely ever asks me for something. And today, actually last night, we were on a date. We got massages and had dinner. And he said, I want meatloaf. And I was like, wow, okay. The man wants meatloaf, he's gonna get meatloaf. He wanted meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and he wanted corn. I'll make him corn, but I'm gonna make Brussels sprouts later for me with bacon and shallots and garlic. And a few other secrets I'll tell you about later. And then I'm going to make my mashed potatoes that are like heart attack mashed potatoes with 2 sticks of butter, sour cream, and a whole cream. It's pretty bad, but delicious. Okay, so you can see I'm sauteing these. They're getting nice and caramelized. You don't want them to be burned or anything, but you do want to get them translucent. I'm going to give them a little bit longer. I'm going to put them into my meat. While I'm waiting for these to get a little bit more sauteed, I'm going to add some fresh parsley. You could do dried if you don't have it. It's about a half a cup, I'd say. I'm going to use crumbled bacon. Yeah, I am. About a cup's worth of the crumbled bacon. And dun da da da, the old school favorite, Lipton onion soup mix. This is great, you guys. I don't want to hear about the chemicals in it or whatever. I'm pretty picky about that, but I'm telling you, this is good. This makes great meatloaf. I don't know if y'all use it, but I'm telling you, it's good. So you want to get your mussels in there. Let's see how my onions are going good. I'm going to turn off the heat. You don't want to put them in scalding hot because it's going to like start to cook the meat. But I'm going to work this. I got to get my rings off. See, nobody steal my diamonds. You got to work this meat. Okay. So my hands are clean. I washed them right before we came on, and it's best to just get in there with your hands. And you want to kind of just mush it up. And I'm just going to do one hand right now because I want to reserve my other hand. So if I need to touch things, it's okay. I add Parmesan cheese, freshly grated, good quality, about a cup's worth. And I like the flavor that it adds to my meatloaf. It also helps kind of pull it together. Okay? And then the last thing here that I have on my counter that I'm going to add is chorizo. You know, chorizo has a really, really interesting flavor. If you're not used to cooking with it, it's going to add some spice to my meatloaf. And it's going to add that extra ingredient that people are going to say, what's in this? So I add a tube of chorizo, mild chorizo. You could do spicy if you like hot, but I'm going to do mild. And I'm going to mix this all together. Liam, can you get in there so they can see? They got parsley. I have not added any breadcrumbs. I haven't added any egg yet. This is just the meat, the Parmesan cheese, and the parsley. Oh my gosh, this is such a workout. And you want to make sure this is really blended well. Now, the reason I like to use a mixture of meats is I think it just gives a better texture. I also don't put my meatloaf in a loaf pan. I'm going to put it on a baking sheet. And you can see that right over there. All right. I'm going to put my onion and my peppers in there. Get all the goodies. It smells so good. It's garlic and onions and all that good stuff. Stay on the food, please, Liam.
Coach Pete says to add green apples.
Green apples? No, Coach. I'm not adding green apples to my meatloaf. No. Now, why would you add green apples? For that salty sweet? Coach, is he answering?
Not yet.
Not yet? I want to know about the green apples. That sounds horrifying. I am going to add a salty sweet component in my topping. So you want to stay tuned to see what I use for my topping on this. It's not going to be just the world's best ketchup from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Heinz ketchup. It's not. I'm going to use something else. Okay, so now it's time for my eggs and my
Coach Pete
breadcrumbs.
says it cuts the chorizo.
Apple? Oh, do you grate it or do you chop it, Coach?
Oh,
What does it say?
and Bruce Lim says hi.
Hi, Bruce. Green apples. I use apples in my sauerkraut and my pork roast, but I don't know in a meatloaf. I'm not buying it, but I want to taste it. I want to taste it, Coach. I want to see what it tastes like. I need to get in here with my hands. I'm going to start adding my binder. Eggs. Eggs are your friend. Now, I have got a crap load of food in here, so I'm going to use 4 eggs. But for a smaller loaf, you could use 2. And I really just like to see the texture. I'll probably do like 3 and see if I need to do the 4th. And I'm going to use breadcrumbs. I'm going to use Italian, where are they? Oh, here they are. Progresso, easy, about a cup's worth. I also like to do bread and milk. I'm just out of milk. I went out to my fridge and my kid, the kid that's actually filming right now,
I had one bowl.
Liam is my cereal monster. This kid could live on cereal 24/7. I buy 4 gallons of milk a week, people. 4.
I've had one bowl of cereal in the last 3 days.
4 gallons of milk, and they're all gone.
One bowl in 3 days.
So, yeah. Can't keep too much food around here. All right. This is going to be gushy, gushy goo. And I think 3 eggs is good. I'm good with this. And you got to work this. I mean, this is like a workout.
Oh, there's some new messages. They just popped up.
What are they?
Daniel DeZiel from says, I think some onions fell into the mix. If you hurry, you can take them out.
Daniel is my new co-host on Feast Finders, and we're going to be doing some cooking soon for you guys. Our personalities are going to be complementary, but yes, we differ on things. I think he has an issue with onions. Like my son Liam, who's filming, he's like, ew, onions. Let me tell you a trick. For those of you that don't like onions, onions give so much flavor, but a lot of people don't like onions because of the texture. So what you do is you grate them. If you grate an onion, there won't be that textural issue, if that's what it is. Is that what you don't like about it, Daniel? Is the texture, or is it really the flavor? Because I think most people don't realize that onions are like everything. I mean, it's in hot sauce, it's in ketchup, it's in everything. Tacos, I mean, come on, guys. So that's my tip. Grate them, don't chop them. And when I make my pasta sauce, Liam, he watches me, he's like, those onions are chunky, or that's chunky. So I make my sauce before I add my meat, and I let it simmer down, and I put my vegetables in there, like a bolognese has like carrot and celery. He doesn't know. Well, he does now.
I've always known.
But I take my immersion blender, and I puree it after I cook it, and it's delicious. And then there's no chunks, and then I don't get any complaints from Liam. Right, Liam? Mm-hmm. So my picky eater, Liam is my picky. He's my second son. He's 18, and he's picky about texture. Don't you think that's what your issue is texture? Yeah. So yeah. So again, those of you that have an issue with texture, pulverize them. Okay.
Daniel replied. He said, "It's made by the devil. I'm not into witchcraft, so."
Onions are made by God. They're wonderful. Okay, if you can see in here, I've got a lot of meat, got a lot of stuff going on in here, and yes, there are onions in here. Sweet sauteed onions. Do you have an issue with like Walla Walla or Vidalia, Daniel? Do you ever try like the sweet onions? Do you ever try the flavor? They're good. They're not as harsh.
Brian Thornberry says, I hate raw onions, but I like onions when they're cooked way, way, way down.
Yeah, they're
more like a spice than the vegetable.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't have any spice in this yet, so I'm going to add, now the onion soup mix has a lot of salt, but I love this. I don't know if you guys, can you get a close-up of this? It's an all-purpose Greek seasoning. I love it. It's like a lot of oregano. It does have a lot of salt in it, so I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I'm going to do about a teaspoon's worth. And then I need cracked pepper, and I can't do a cracked pepper with a gooey hand, so I'm going to have to get, I have this one. I'm going to use this one today because I don't want to have to stop, make you guys wait. And about a teaspoon. Again, you know, you want the flavoring in this. And I'm going to do something interesting for the inside of this meatloaf. I'm going to stuff my meatloaf. And I'm going to show you how. Very easy. You have to bear with me, though, because I got to get this loaf pan ready. Ugh. So, I'm going to dump this on here. Liam, can you get on this? Okay, so you just want to take your shape and make a log.
Marisa Russo says, you're phenomenal. And then Daniel again says, I have not tried those. The devil is a liar and his temptations are strong.
Follow me, follow me. Okay, so look what I'm doing here. I did put parchment down. It's not going to keep the pan clean, but it just makes cleanup a little bit easier and it doesn't stick. So, Liam, can you see the inside of this? What's going down in here?
Yeah, there's a...
I'm making a reservoir. This is like back to the days when you were like playing with clay. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. I want to get it, you know, kind of even. And I'm just going to shape the sides. This is like therapeutic, you guys. You can work out your aggression. Okay. How's that look? And I'm going to wash my hands. So just give me a sec. Stay on the food. I got to wash my hands. We don't want to have cross-contamination. Here we go. And I've got extra. I'm going to make a second meatloaf when you guys aren't not live. All right. Got to make sure we don't have anything on here that could contaminate what we're doing next. All right, what are we going to do next? We're going to put cheese inside, you guys. Let me move my eggs so we have a cleaner space. So you can use any cheese that you like. I just thought I had this Gouda in the fridge, so it's a smoked Gouda. So I'm going to use smoked Gouda, and I'm going to use Tillamook cheddar because it's open and I have it. Okay, so I'm going to cut it. Now, don't use grated cheese. That's not what you want to do. You want big chunks of cheese so they stand up to the baking process of this meat, okay? So I'm going to cut chunks of meat. This is a clean knife, hasn't touched beef or pork. This has a wax rind on it, so I've got to get the wax rind off. It smells so smoky. And I'm just going to cut pieces because I'm going to do Gouda and cheddar. You could do mozzarella. I've done provolone. You could do a Mexican style and do Mexican style cheeses in there. Delicious. So I'm going to load this bad boy with that cheese, the smoked Gouda. Okay. And then I'm going to do a layer. It's got wax on it still, Liam. Liam's stealing my cheese. Everybody can see that you're stealing my cheese.
Did it off camera.
Okay, so I'm going to cut some nice pieces of Tillamook. And I like Tillamook cheddar. I just think it tastes really good. And I'm going to pack some thick pieces of cheddar cheese in there. Okay? Man, I'm getting a workout. Make sure it's just stock full of cheese. I'm going to put a little bit more in there because you can never have too much cheese. Okay, piece in the middle there. Make sure we got one on the end. How does it look?
Charles Smith Jr. says, I thought you were broadcasting live from a concert.
From a concert? What concert?
Meatloaf concert, apparently.
All I do live is, the only concerts I go to are hockey games. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit more meat. I'm going to bring it over here. I don't want to get near my cheese. But I'm kind of just, I'm putting a roof on my house. Remember those days when you guys made stuff? I'm putting a roof on my house. Isn't this great? And then I'm going to make my glaze. And my glaze, Coach, you talked about salty sweet. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for my... Now this looks like a log cabin. It's looking a little...
Joanne Simone Norton says, holy smokes.
I know, right? This sucker's like gargantuan. All right, this is like Play-Doh, guys. You know, you just keep working it. I'm making it the size I want it, patting it down.
She also says, how about a big pile of blue cheese?
You could. Blue cheese would be great. Gorgonzola. I mean, you guys, the skies are limited. You know, you could do whatever you want. If you want to do an Italian style, you could do provolone, smoked provolone. I also smoke my meatloaves very often, and tonight I'm not going to because my husband's watching football. I don't want to bother him, but I smoke my meatloaf very often, and it's delicious. What I do is I put some pieces of foil. I make foil like logs, just to kind of raise it up a little bit, and I put it on a tray and I smoke it, and it's delicious. It's smoky dish, but today I'm gonna bake it.
Eric Gordon says closing the coffin.
Closing the coffin. There you go. That's.
Donnie Hop says I love meatloaf. Looks delicious.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be right back. I gotta wash my hands again. I'm gonna make this glaze, and I'm telling you, this glaze is so good. This is like, to me, what's so great about it. Now, a lot of people like to do a bacon wrapped meatloaf, and you could do that. I don't like to do that. I like to put the bacon in the mix. I think the bacon, I like bacon crispy, and I feel like when you wrap it, it's like it's gonna make the insides too dry and the outsides not so crispy. So I'm really particular about bacon. If you're gonna bacon wrap your meatloaf, make sure you buy the cheap bacon that's really thin. That's the key if you wanna bacon wrap it. That's the important thing. So we're gonna make the glaze. Let me get rid of all this cheese. What happened to, oh, there it is. Okay, and I need a bowl. Here we go. All right, starts with, again, the best ketchup you can buy, which is Heinz. Don't mess with the ketchup. Don't buy Hunt's, no cheapy brands. I'm sorry, Heinz ketchup is the best. You want about, I don't know, is that like a little bit of like a cup and a half maybe? Again, I just play around with it. Now this is what gives you the sweet, spicy, salty version. This is Hoisin sauce or Hoisin sauce. This is it's soy, it's bean curd powder or bean paste, it's sesame paste, it's got a vinegar, it's got a salty, sweet profile. If you've ever used this.
Bruce Lim says, I'm in love hard.
Yes, it is so good. So I want a lot of this. This is sweet. I want like, I don't know, what is that? What does that look like? A quarter cup maybe? I don't know. A lot of people add brown sugar. Oh no, we're doing honey. Honey.
Does it matter if it's Turkish or not?
I'm not racist when it comes to honey. Just make sure it's real. You know what I mean? You want like real honey, not that sous vide or whatever, that cheap crap. Okay, so you want to put, again, I don't know how much, like, what is that? Maybe another quarter cup of honey?
It's kind of hard to tell.
What's so good about, you know, meat is salty and savory, and I've got all these salty, savory things going on, and now I'm adding this element of sweet and tangy, but also spicy a little bit. I'm going to add Worcestershire sauce to it, a couple, you know, boom, 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 maybe 3 little dashes. I'm going to add a little bit of dry mustard, ground mustard. I just think it adds a little complexity to the flavor. Maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm going to add garlic paste. You could use fresh garlic, but I like the paste. The consistency is really nice. And, you know, just a little bit. I don't need a ton. And then I'm going to add some more pepper. And now that my hands aren't dirty, I can use my thing. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I need a spoon. Mix it up.
Needs more cheese.
Oh, it's full of cheese. My potatoes are really good too. And I'm gonna come back. I'll pull out the meatloaf. I might show you some cheese pouring when I cut it, and then I'll do my mashed potatoes and my Brussels. I'm gonna make Brussels later with this. I'm gonna saute them. And I'm going to saute them with a little bit of this maple bacon jam. Oh yeah, that's right. So good. Don't you doubt it. Okay, so here's my sauce. Isn't it beautiful? It's got a rich, really yummy flavor to it. And I am just going to pour that bad boy all over it. Doesn't that look so good? I've got a second one to make, so I don't want to use it all up. And of course, you've used the spoon. I've dipped it back in there so you can't save it.
Victor Wright put a link in chat and he said meatloaf smoker accessory.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy an accessory, but you don't need it. I'm telling you, you just do a sheet pan. You can do a disposable pan. I'm up here. Hello.
Still trying to record the food.
Middle. You can. I just take aluminum foil and I make logs. Okay, and I do 3. 1, 2, 3, and I lay them underneath my meatloaf. And that's way it helps the circulation, the smoke to get all over it, and it's perfect. It's delicious. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to bake this meatloaf. Forget these cookbooks that say 45 minutes, whatever. You need to have a Thermapen. Look how sad mine cracked. Ground meat. What does the guide say? Always go by the guide. 160 is the minimum temperature for food safety. I'm going to stick that in. I'm going to see. It's going to take about 45 minutes, but every oven's different. The calibration of your oven's different. So you always want to have a meat thermometer. I think that's the most important thing. Stop worrying about how long, what temperature. I'm going to do 375, but again, your 375 for your oven may not be mine. So you just want to play around with it. The other thing I want to talk about before I put this in really quickly is I like to use leaner ground beef, like 90-10, because I think it's really fatty. I have no idea what I used today. It was frozen in my freezer, so I didn't mark it. So I don't know what I'm going to end up with, but I think it's best to use leaner ground beef if you have it. Okay, so I'm going to pop this in the oven, and when I come back later on, I'm going to show you how to make my Brussels with, yes, my maple bacon jam, which is so delicious. I'm going to use bacon as well. I'm going to saute them in bacon fat again, and I have a few other secrets that I add, and I promise you, so many people hate Brussels. These are smoky and sweet. My son is like, no, they're delicious. They really are. And of course, I'll make corn because my husband wants corn. All right, guys, if you have any questions, put it in the link and I'll answer it when I come back. I know you're watching football. Everybody's all excited about their football. I could care less. I'm all about hockey. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.